Would you please rise in body and spirit as you are able, as we sing our gathering hymn, number 93, To Mercy, Pity, Peace, and Love.
more peaceful world. I invite you to join me, if you are so inclined, in our ritual of speaking aloud the words of our shared affirmation. Love is our doctrine, compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes and serve the needs of our world. It's our tradition here at UUCS to light 3 chalices as we begin our Sunday services each week. The first chalice is for all who have gathered here, all the friends and members of UUCS. The second is for our partner church, which is located in Shibazvala, Transylvania, Romania. The third is for the children and youth, both those back in the RE, well, they will be back there, and those around the world. We light these chalices for the web of life, of which we are a part, for the love and faith which sustain us, for friends, past and present, and those we have yet to meet. Please join me in singing the flame into life.
Good morning. Good morning. Can everybody young or young at heart please join me up front? You can sit up here. Come on up. Have a seat. Get closer. Welcome. Hi there. Hi there. Hi, babies. Welcome. So for May, our theme is creativity, which is super fun. And for that, I'm going to be reading my favorite book of all time. It's called The Book with No Pictures. So that's why there's no pictures behind. Yeah. Okay. This is a book with no pictures. It might seem like no fun to have someone read you a book with no pictures. It probably seems boring and serious, except here's how books work. Everything the words say, the person reading the book has to say. No matter what. That's the deal. That's the rule. So that means, even if words say, blork, wait, what? That doesn't even mean anything. Blurf. Wait a second, what? This isn't the kind of book I wanted to read. And I have to say every word the book says? I am a monkey who taught myself to read. Hey, I'm not a monkey. And now I'm reading you this book with my monkey mouth and my monkey voice. That's not true. Hey, I'm not a monkey. Yes, I am a monkey. Also, hi. Also, I am a robot monkey. What? And my head is made of blueberry pizza. Wait a second. Is this whole book a trick? Can I stop reading, please? And now it's time for me to sing you my favorite song. A song? Do I really have to sing a glug, 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 my face is a bug, I eat it for breakfast right off the rug. What? This book is ridiculous. Can I stop reading yet? There are more pages? I have to read the rest?
All right, yeah. I think that's the deal.
My only friend in the whole world is a hippo named Boo Boo Butt. Boo Boo Butt? And also, the kid I'm reading this book to is the best kid ever in the history of the entire world.
That's true, yeah.
Oh, really? And these kids, are the smartest kids too. Because these kids chose this book even though it had no pictures. Because kids know this is the book that makes grown-ups have to say silly things. And make silly sounds like, oh no, here it comes. Blurga waka grumba doodle I boo oopa 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 blackety blackety blickety blackety blickety blackety beep boop pop boogie face. My gosh. Oh my goodness. Please don't ever make me read this book again. It is so silly. In fact, it is completely and utterly preposterous. Next time, please choose a book with pictures. Please. Because this is just too ridiculous to read. The end. Bop. I didn't want to say that. Just a couple of announcements. Game night is the second Friday of every month from 6:30 to 8:30. Super fun for families and friends. And then we're having muffins with moms and all the mothers in your life. And so we are having muffins and snacks and tea at 11:45 after the Sunday service on Mother's Day. And we're also looking for LRE volunteers, especially during the summer. We really would like any and all of you to volunteer just even for one Sunday during the summer to teach us something about yourself, or tell us why you are a UU, or a place you lived or been to, and something you want to share with the kids. Anything at all. So if you'd like to, just come find me. Okay? All right, if everybody can stand up in the center, we will be on our way. Thank you.
And gratitude. I invite you now to think of your life. Think of that for which you are profoundly grateful. Think of your loved ones. Think of this beautiful world in which we live. Think of the love that we share. Think of the joy. Think of the art and the beauty and the music and the sunlight. So much to be grateful for. May our hearts be open. May our hearts be open to the spirit of gratitude. Compassion and gratitude are our path. Amen.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm a lifelong slave minister, and I have some concerns and a joy to read for you today. The first two concerns are from Leslie and Bob Simon. The first is our friend Chelsea, whose unborn daughter has a serious heart condition. The second is for our friend Nathan, waiting for a job offer in Alaska. The third concern is from Sarah Pickett from May 1st, 2023. Brennan Norvall's father passed away on May 1st. Although he had been declining in health, his death was still unexpected. He will be missed. Brennan asks that you keep her and her family in your thoughts. If you would like to send condolences, her email is brennannorval@gmail.com. And I added a joy because I felt like we needed a joy. My joy is that I'm grateful that it is such a beautiful spring day today. All the beautiful flowers blooming all over as I drive around. So that's a joy. And finally, we light a candle for all the joys and concerns that remain in our hearts, but are unwritten or unspoken. I also want to announce really quickly that Lifeline Salem Ministry is presenting a second Alzheimer's event, May 11th, 2023, in the Fellowship Hall this week coming up. It's going to be at 5 p.m., so if you can attend that, please come. The first event was really good. So Lifeline Salem Ministry, we're here for you. When you need a supportive listener or a helping hand, you can contact us at lifelinesalem.org. And next week is the second Sunday of the month, so that's going to be our Compassionate Connections, and that'll be on May 14th, right after the service. You can meet here and we'll go back to the Reverend's office. But we also now, Lifelines, are meeting every Sunday in the Fellowship Hall. We'll have a table. So if you have a concern that you'd like to talk to us about, please approach us at the table and I'll have a sign up for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. And now I'd like to ask all the lifelines to kind of go over here. So we keep saying you can contact the lifelines by contacting this thing, but you can contact the lifelines by contacting one of these wonderful people here. And let's give Lorna a green ribbon there. She didn't get one. You don't want one, huh? It's a good way to visibly recognize. We'll have some skulls for these good people later on, but in our congregation, we really do seek to create and sustain a caring and a compassionate spiritual community. And when you called me to be your minister 3 decades ago, you charged me to serve this congregation so as to further this aim. And I, in turn, said to you, I can't do this by myself. And I call for the members of the congregation to join me in a shared ministry of compassionate presence in which we offer emotional and spiritual support to you, our members and friends, during the many challenging moments of life. Members quickly heeded this call, leading to the formation of our Lifelines Lay Ministry program to ensure that we would more effectively serve our congregation. And since the beginning, a steady stream of our members, nearly before our new contingent, nearly 60 members had already served as Lifelines Lay Ministers over the past 30 years. And today we welcome new Lifeline Lay Ministers into this shared ministry of compassionate presence. And we also welcome not only you, but we also welcome your many new ideas for how we can more effectively serve the members of our congregation with compassion and joy and love. So I want to recognize Pete Lay, just sort of wave to the congregation. And these are the new ones. And Margaret Gregg. And Kathy Roll. We already heard Kathy earlier on. And Carrie Lynn Patterson. And Amy Jocelyn. And Joan Stembridge. And Stephen Winters. And even as we welcome these new members, we're also gratefully recognizing those who are continuing to serve as members of the Lifelines. You provided and have provided stability and continuity for our program, especially during the grueling days of the pandemic. So we would like to recognize those who are continuing. Lorna Youngs, who has done such a great job for us, and Len Cardiff, who is maybe back in RE. Len does so much for us. George Pitter. I know I saw George today. I think he's probably making the coffee today. So that's a good Lifelines function to provide that. So we'll recognize George later on. And Gene Logan, I believe, was not able to make it today. finally, Eric Schilling. And so today, as we welcome our largest ever contingent of new members and continuing members, we invite you, the members and friends of this congregation, to affirm this in this role and support them in their work. And remember to turn to us for support during times of need. So I'm going to come give everybody a hug and thank you for doing this work. There's a lot of them, aren't there? Yeah. Thank you for doing this. Thank you. This is such a great thing. Thank you for leading us. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Amy. Absolutely. Okay. Be happy, people. We got a great group of people here. You guys can go enjoy the service. Thank you.
in indulging in unrestrained desire and greed, that we need to cultivate contentment and simplicity. We need a sense of oneness.
Thank you, Janet. I have to go up against the Dalai Lama now, huh? I'm going to lose, but okay. Let's try it out anyway. When the Reverend William Ellery Copeland, his parents, his working class Unitarian parents, named him after the Reverend William Ellery Channing. When Reverend Copeland came here to Salem in 1891 to serve as the first Unitarian minister in Salem, there's no record of a universalist clergy coming here, but he came here in 1891, Reverend William Ellery Copeland. America was hitting a treacherous patch in its history. The sudden growth of powerful corporations practicing monopolistic capitalism, that was subverting the ideals of American democracy, and power, economic power, and hence political power was being concentrated into fewer and fewer hands. The labor unions were just beginning to form, but they weren't doing so well because they were often overpowered by the private security forces hired by the corporations. The economy was very shaky right around then. It had a couple of depressions in the 1880s, and things were still quite shaky. There was a huge influx of cheap immigrant labor coming into America, so that made it all the harder for its regular citizen to earn a living wage. It was an age of struggle and strife, and the Reverend Copeland was right there in the middle of it. A few years before coming to Salem, he actually had a ministry in Modesto, California, but before that, he had a ministry in Nebraska, and he had been run out of town by the railroad interests because he was criticizing their land-grabbing ways. So Copeland was right in the middle of a lot of this kind of struggle for justice and equity. Historians recognize Copeland and others of like mind in this area. They were called Christian socialists. Christian socialists. They were those who believed that if Jesus Christ had been incarnated into the industrial age, he would have been a socialist. This isn't completely far-fetched, since in the earliest Christian communities, as you can read about in the book of Acts, earliest Christian communities, they shared all their wealth in common. So they were kind of socialists. Copeland, Reverend Copeland, was part of what is known as the social gospel movement, which preached that you need to do more than save people's souls. You need to create social conditions for everyone to be free from privation and prejudice and oppression. It made a lot of sense. You know, too often religion is concerned, you want to save your soul. What about my body? So the good Reverend Copeland and countless others across the nation and even the world were looking for a bright vision of how things should be. How should things be? And this vision came to them in the form of a book. It was an early science fiction novel entitled Looking Backward by Edward Bellamy. It was published in 1888. It was the second best-selling book in America in the 19th century, second only to Uncle Tom's Cabin. And we know that Reverend Copeland greatly appreciated this book since he was the president of the local Bellamy Club here in town. It was one of the many such. There were almost a couple of hundred Bellamy clubs that quickly formed around the country, and most likely a number of Unitarians in the Salem Unitarian Church in the end of the 19th century were probably also members of this club. And these were not just book discussion groups. These members came together to embrace the vision of the book and to promote its ideals. Today we're familiar with all sorts of utopian and dystopian science fiction books and films since that time that depict a vast range of future scenarios for humankind. Today, in our fearful, cynical times, these future imaginings are almost uniformly bleak and dystopian. The dystopian classics, 1984 by George Orwell, here's a quote from that book. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. There was Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 450. These classics all depicted a bleak future, a dystopian tone. And even though life was generally much harder back in the 1890s, when this book was first coming out, looking back, it was first coming out, it was also a more innocent, hopeful age. And Bellamy's utopian science fiction novel found a widespread, enthusiastic audience that transported the reader to a nearly perfect society just a little over a century into the future, 112 years, 113 years into the future, in the year 2000. And in the year 2000, everything is perfect. And of course, it was perfect that year. The protagonist is Julian West. He is put into a hypnotic sleep in 1887, and he wakes up in the year 2000 in Boston, Massachusetts. And in this era, he discovers a society in which all the problems and injustices of the 1890s have been solved, resolved. It's all in the past. Whatever was bad about America in the 1890s, in this book, in this year 2000 in the book, is but a sad and painful memory in this new world of harmony and happiness. In this world, everybody has enough. There's no more war. Everyone is equal. Everyone voluntarily joins an industrial army that does all the work that needs to be done, but you're done by the age of 45 when you can retire and enjoy your long life of leisure. There's harmony between the sexes. Everyone is educated, and public spirit has vanquished the kinds of selfishness and greed common in other eras. Serious disagreements between people are in the past because everyone is of one basic mind. So that pretty much describes our world today, doesn't it? Well, maybe they missed it a little bit. But back then, this utopian vision hit at just the right historic moment for maximum impact. The New York Times wrote, it is one of the few books ever published that created almost immediately, on its appearance, a political mass movement. Not only did the book present a vision of a better world, it provided a roadmap for how to get to this promised land. And how could you get there? The way to achieve this utopian dream, are you ready, was by applying the principles of rationality to the economic and social problems such that the end result is a new society, a society which is the logical outcome of the operation of human nature under rational conditions. That's how you get there. Why didn't somebody tell us this sooner? Sometimes, I want to be fair, I wonder how this book might have affected me if I had lived in Reverend Copeland's time. It's impossible to say, because I wouldn't know what I know now, but it is true that this book and similar other utopian blueprints for a bright future, it got passed around far and wide as a bestseller. And it generated all sorts of enthusiasm amongst many people who dream of creating a better world. Soon governments got in the act, and led by our own government, they began to apply the principles of rationality to help solve some nagging social problems. Bellamy himself explored some ways that this could be done when he outlined a story about the breeding of superior souls. The breeding of superior souls. A number of late 19th and early 20th century progressives, aided by new scientific insights into genetics and heredity, became enamored of the idea that one way to make society much better was through the selective breeding of humankind to produce a new and improved people. This new field was called eugenics. It wasn't just a theoretical field, it was put into action. It led to the forced sterilization laws that were passed in many states. I think over 30 states passed forced sterilization laws that especially targeted the disabled, minorities, and the marginalized in general. There was a proliferation of these forced sterilization laws across the country. Today, some state governments are having to pay reparations, rightfully so, to people who were involuntarily sterilized. When the Nazis came to power in Germany, they were inspired by what the Americans had done. And they embraced the pseudoscientific principles of eugenics as they sought to create a pure Aryan race, which meant that all who were deemed defective by Nazi standards were murdered, executed. And so it came to pass that in the quest to create a more perfect nation, the German nation, the millions of human beings were shoved by other human beings into the gas chambers, and then their bodies were fed into the ovens of Auschwitz and Sobibor and Treblinka. And they burned the bodies of 6 million Jews and millions of other undesirables. Meanwhile, others further to the east were inspired by the utopian vision of a one-party state that controls the economy and everything else. In the Soviet Union, to help move this collectivist vision along, Lenin deemed it necessary to liquidate an entire class of peasants, the successful peasants. They were called the kulaks. And so the Soviets, they seized all their assets, they turned their lands into collectivist farms, and they executed them in mass, or they sent them off to slave labor in Siberia. His successor, Stalin, continued this policy with great zeal. Millions died. You can read about a Soviet policy to exterminate an entire class of society. They did. The Chinese leader Mao was similarly inspired by utopian visions of a classless industrial society, and he came up with a great idea that he called the Great Leap Forward. This was to transform China from an agrarian to an industrial economy. It didn't work out so well. It wasn't well planned. This led to human suffering on a scale that is just so hard to imagine, probably the largest famine in human history. And this happened during my lifetime, when I was around 8 years old. Up to 55 million people were starving to death because of the government policy to help make the society better. That's a lot of people. I remember reading about an account by T.H. White. He was an American. He happened to be over in China. He was haunted by this vision of seeing an elderly couple. They were just so fatigued, and they were lying on the ground, and they were hugging, and they were sobbing as they starved to death. Even now, this same government that I'm talking about is systematically destroying the weaker people in northwest China, Muslim minority. They're destroying their religion. They're doing it right now. Well, what have we done here in the West to make the world better? Well, all around the world, but most especially here in the West, we have been inspired by the vision of a more perfect world brought to us by science and technology. This is one of the key themes in Bellamy's book, too. Science and technology. That's going to help you get to where you want to go. Well, maybe not. It's been a mixed blessing, hasn't it? And now, due to our use of this technology, we've got a terrible mess on our hands. As carbon fills the atmosphere, plastics invade the oceans, coral reefs, endangered species perish. Meanwhile, the technology, it's going to unify us, we were promised. No, it has divided us, polarized us. Where technology will take us next is a very open question at this moment, as we are in the early days of something that promises/threatens to bring radical changes to our lives. I'm talking about artificial intelligence. Computer intelligence, which can do its own unsupervised learning, which will grow even more powerful with no end limit in sight. What are we unleashing? What are we unleashing? The promoters of this technology see great promise in this, and maybe so. I don't know enough to firmly disagree, but I and many others who are much better versed are profoundly concerned about an artificial intelligence that will know what's best for us and will figure out a way to bring that about. How much harm has been caused by those who think they know what's best for us, what's best for society? How many false ideological visions have been imposed from the top down, and then those who are already down have had to suffer as a consequence? How naive those utopian visions of yesteryear look to us today, and how tragically those visions have played out. Such an irony. We wanted to make a better world, and we created hell. We created hell. For most of our lives, my life certainly, and I'm not a youngster, for most of our lives, the common vision we have of the future of our world, of human society, the most common vision is dystopian. I grew up under that. I grew up under a cloud that said nuclear doom. The doomsday clock was always saying we're just about there, we're going to have nuclear war pretty soon, It's even closer now. 90 seconds, they say, the atomic clock is put at by the scientists right now. So I grew up thinking the future is pretty hopeless. And now, the doomsday narratives have been picked up by the young generation. And it's a narrative that leads them not to hope, but to despair. Instead of reminding them, our young folks, as I believe we should, of their inherent creativity and resilience and of the exciting possibilities in their lives, the narrative we give them tells them that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and we're sorry about that. But here's the thing. Both utopian and dystopian visions, they share something in common. They are imaginary narratives of the future that takes us away from the present moment, the present reality of our lives. So I have learned the hard way to be very mistrustful of these kinds of narratives, both kinds of narratives, both kinds. Not only the utopian, but the dystopian narratives. Because who knows what the future holds? Really. Who in human history, in any age, has ever really known what the future would bring? That's not the way life works. We live in the present, not the future. The great Italian poet Dante knew this. He had astute psychological spiritual insight. And he recognized how the obsessive quest to see and control the future, I want to see into the future, I want to control the future, how that is selfish and mistrustful and perverse. And he made his point in his poetic work, The Inferno, as part of an epic three-part epic called The Divine Comedy, The Inferno. It's a guided tour of hell. And here's a strange thing. Dante was so good at writing this that people in his lifetime said, "You've been down there. You've been down there. You know what it's like in hell." But actually what Dante did, he did a deep dive into the human psyche and soul and mind. And that's why it seems so apt what he did. So you're reading Dante's Inferno, and down you go. There's a lot of circles of hell. The deeper you go, the worse you are. And finally you get down to that eighth and penultimate, the next to the last circle of hell. And who do you find there? You find the seers and the sorcerers, those who attempted to bend or divine the future. And here we encounter a different kind of looking backward than we see in Bellamy's utopian novel, because these souls, these damned souls, who spent their lives trying to gaze into the future in Dante's hell, they now have their heads twisted around to face backwards. And they are forced to walk backwards around the circumference of their circle for all eternity. That's pretty harsh, isn't it? I don't believe in eternal hell, but this scene from Dante's Inferno is to me a clear reminder of the hellish consequences for humankind when we imagine that we are all-knowing gods who can see the future and impose our vision of life onto the world, onto reality. I especially think of those tyrants and those ideological zealots who have caused and continue to cause great harm by trying to make reality fit into the narrow confines of their little imaginations. Long ago, the Chinese sage Lao Tzu asked, "Do you want to improve the world?" I don't think it can be that. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. Paradoxically, the way the world changes for the better is when we pay attention to the life we have now, today. Is there an opportunity to love, to show compassion? Is there a way to show meaningful support to those who are on the margins of society? Is there a way to serve your family, your congregation, your community, your country, humankind, all life? Is there a way to do that? Is there an opportunity to find joy and happiness today? If you do this, if we do this now, we build a stronger foundation for a loving, caring society so that tomorrow's generation will be blessed. And I want to bless the next generation. I really do. As for my good predecessor, the Reverend William Ellery Copeland, poor health led him to leave Salem and head up to the Puget Sound, where he joined the Socialist Commune before he died in 1904. And he was, by all accounts, a really good person and a good minister. But I think he was wrong about Jesus being a socialist or being a proponent of any particular ideology. We all know that Jesus would have been a capitalist, the head of a big corporation. No, we don't know that. I don't think that it's helpful to try to shoehorn Jesus into any of these things. I don't think that even as Jesus was believed in freely sharing the material blessings of life, I don't think that that means he was a forerunner to socialism, capitalism, or any particular ideological perspective. I think Jesus was spiritually alive, and he saw the great promise of an awakened love for human society. And he and others, like the Indian poet Kalidasa, invite us not to create perfect societies in the future, but to discover the great beauty and wonder of life before us now. And Kalidasa wrote, "Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of achievement. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision, but today, well lived, makes yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day." Amen. Would you join me in a period of prayerful reflection? In the Buddhist tradition, they say that having a human life, getting to be alive in this world in human form, is the greatest blessing. And we are blessed. We have this life before us now. We have this day, this moment in time. And we are together. And we are recognizing the love that we share. And the hope that will draw us forward. May it be so.
We have received many gifts today. The gift of wisdom, the gift of community. We hope to have the gift of new friends when we gather after the service, along with the gifts of coffee and tea and snacks. So now we ask that you offer your gift of support to this congregation, its many ministries and good works. And we share our bounty with the wider community as well. This week we support Salem Harvest. They connect farmers and backyard growers with volunteer pickers to harvest fruits and vegetables that would otherwise go to waste. Donations may be made in the baskets passed through the congregation or by going online to UUCS.org and following the prompts. You can see how they're on the slide in front of you. Thank you so much for your generosity.
So, I love seeing you here today. I hope I'll see you here next Sunday. I'll be offering another sermon, which I will figure out during the week. I'm not sure how to change it anymore. But I'll figure it out during the week, and I'll be able to say it Sunday. So, there's a lot of things going on in our community. And while I'm thinking about that, I want to get John Schenberg up here next to me, too, because he wants to mention a concert next weekend. But if you go to our website, you can always click in and make sure that you receive our weekly e-blast and our newsletters. So that's a good way to plug in and find out all the things that are going on, rather than having me try to tell you about all of it from the pulpit. But next weekend is going to be a super musical weekend here in this space. On next Saturday at 3 p.m., the Delgado String Quartet is going to be playing world class. They're so good. If you're interested in getting a ticket, come talk to me. I can make something happen. And the next day, there's going to be another concert that I don't know anything about, but you do. So tell us about it.
Thanks, Rick. It's not a concert per se. I'm just so excited that on Mother's Day we'll be introducing to you Miss Stephanie Smith. Miss Stephanie Smith is a fantastic choral director. She has run Confluence. If you're familiar with Confluence, it's just an amazing vocal group. She's going to be presenting Queertet to provide special music, and they are amazing. And Stephanie is amazing, and I'm just so happy. I just had to take a moment and make sure that everybody knows what really awesome music we've got coming up here at UU. Thanks, Rick.
You bet. That's good enough for our announcements. Thank you.
Don't sit down, Rick. You need to. It's time to light the social justice lantern, like we do every week. And we light this lantern from the flame of our community chalice. And it symbolizes the many ways that each of you, the members and friends of UUCS, share the gifts, your gifts and talents with the world. As always, we must extinguish our flames at the end of the service. I think it's probably fire marshal to do that most. But we do not extinguish the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of justice that burns bright in each of us until we are together again.
And now will you please rise in body and or spirit as you are able, as we sing our closing hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit.